Hey guys, this is Don Baker, and I'm coming to you tonight to talk about my discrimination speech. Before I get into that, though, I want you to take you back, and I want you to remember a video we watched called Pancake Girl Principles. In this video, she had talked about the little girl at the restaurant. She's 4 years old, who was in her dress or her pajamas, and who asked her if she was a boy or girl. And she asked her if she was a boy or girl because of how she looked. You know, she looked like a boy, had the same haircut as a boy, was short. So now that you're remembering that, also remember she talked about everybody has a hard. And when you have that hard, you should address that hard. No one's hard is any different than anyone else's, whether it's homosexuality, whether it's religion, whether it's bad news, good news, hard is a hard. So, with that being said, let's talk about being closeted. I want to come to you tonight and talk to you about closeted and not closeted homosexuality. What I want to talk about are those atheists who are what they call closeted atheists. And that's probably something you've never heard of, but it's out there. One of the topics was about discrimination about atheists. I chose this topic because I never thought about that before. I always hear about discrimination of Muslims, homosexuality, African American, Native American, Hispanic, Christian, but I really have not paid any attention at all to those who have no belief in God and that they're discriminated against. Not that I've dismissed those people, I've just not thought about that. So, out of the three papers that I had to read on discrimination of atheism, one that really stood out to me the most was by Matthew R. Miles, and it was titled Social and Political Exclusion: How America's Religious Deals with Open Atheisms or Open Atheists. One of the things in this paper that I thought was interesting was the fact that those who are open atheists, they really short themselves as far as a social community. I'm not talking about Facebook, because I'm sure there's a Facebook group out there of atheists. I'm not talking about Twitter or Instagram, Snapchat. What I'm talking about is maybe there is a bowling league, and maybe there is a fishing tournament league or paintball league, and you have a mix of people: Muslims, maybe Catholic, Mormon, Christian. Not that all those have a thing in common other than they believe in a deity, but you have atheists who do not. And so therefore they're kind of outcast with that. In this paper, who ironically was written at Brigham Young University in Utah, which is a Mormon university, which, by the way, I thought he did really well by not honing on one side or the other. One of the things I thought was interesting was those who are open atheists who decide they want to run for office. They want to get in there, whether it's president, mayor, governor. There are laws and legislations on the book in each state that clearly states those that do not have a belief in God cannot run for office. Now, if we go back and we look at what the country was founded on, okay, yes, we talk about one nation under God, but we also talk about the ability and the freedom to worship how we want. I'm not talking about separation of church and state. I'm talking about the ability to worship as we want to or without, whether it's Hinduism, Buddhism, Christian, agnostic, atheists, either one. So in this form here, he talks about the separation that atheists go through and the discrimination they deal with. For example, he mentioned numerous times in the social networking that it makes much more sense for atheists to say nothing at all and to get along with those who completely have different views just so they can interact. They also talk about, which kind of makes sense, that those of the same religion tend to want to support the community with that same religion, things that are involved with that same religion. Now, you can cross that up a little bit with, let's say, for example, Catholic and Mormon. Okay, sure, they still believe in Jesus Christ, even though they're completely different, but they'll still support each other. Now, you may have somebody who is atheist who has the same wants and desires for the community, but because they're atheists, they're not going to be allowed to participate, or if they do, they're really going to get shunned on. If you've ever been to church or any type of a church gathering, you've heard of the term clique. So a clique, obviously, it's a little group of folks who have their own, think of their own, and anybody else that's outside of that, it's not worth the time. So during this entire sheet, this entire paper that I read, he mentioned that numerous times about atheists being discriminated against in the culture. In the community with their culture. Doesn't talk about whether or not they have temples that they worship at. Doesn't talk about whether or not they have meetings that they go to, those type of things. So I just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention. And just because you're not Mormon or Catholic or Jewish, that does not mean that you're less important than the rest of us. So just be thinking about this after I'm finished up. I just want you to realize that it's out there. They call them closeted atheists who, for good reason, they want to stay in the closet. They don't want to come out. They don't want to talk about it because all the things that's going to happen with them, or to them, I should say, when they do. So anyway, thanks for watching and have a good night.